Hey, welcome back to the Oz Shift podcast. Anthony Trucks here. Today's guest is Amina Al Tai. Now, she has got a really cool background of life she's navigated. She almost, at one point, was told she was going to die. And then she had to make some adjustments, but she actually didn't at first. She went the direction of doing some things that were in avoidance of this. And she leaned back in, and then she noticed some things that she, in her own life, adjusted for her own life. And then over the years of her life, she navigated some things and found that what she had was something she can give back to the world because she wasn't in love with what she was doing anymore. She was doing something, but maybe you felt that way. I don't love this, but there's something else there. Some of us listen to the call and go towards it, and a lot of us just don't, unfortunately. So thankfully she did. And in doing so, she got some great success that she's now been able to turn around and teach other people how to also achieve. And it's not like financial success. It's like a genuine sense of peace in life. And it's done in an interesting way. And she primarily works with entrepreneurs. So if you're in that pocket or know somebody in that pocket, it's going to be a great episode to listen to. So without further ado, let's hop into the episode. Hello. Welcome to the show. We're here with Amina. I said her name wrong before, but I'm telling you it the proper way. I'm not going to tell you how I said it because then I don't want to mess it up. Anyways, we're going to have a deeper conversation around life and all the fun stuff. Welcome. How are you doing today?
I am awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to have a chat with you. Just so you guys know who are listening, I get, there's always the pre-recording conversation, and you get to come on I never know who I'm going to see because I don't actually meet people until we're here. And it was joyful. Amina has got a good brightness to her, so I'm excited to see where the conversation goes. You guys are listening, tune in. You can usually tell in a couple minutes, someone's got some wealth of knowledge and heart to them. And I think it's going to be one of those. But here's how I start the podcast. One question, then I will talk way less. Let's say I'm walking around town. I sit down at this coffee shop, sit next to some beautiful woman, happens to be you. I don't know you. You don't know me. For some reason, you feel compelled to turn and start talking to me. In your personal opinion, why should I listen to you?
Oh, one of the things that I love to do is lead with curiosity. So if I were turning to you to talk to you, I would probably ask you a million questions. And who doesn't love to be asked questions? And so I feel like that's such a disarming way to start a conversation of just digging deeper and looking to understand and connect with someone.
Yeah. Unless it's hey, is that your breath that stinks? Or how much money do you make? Let's not ask those questions. But where'd you get that curiosity from, though? Because I get that answer probably 30% of the time, right? But I'm always curious.
I guess I'm a kind of a typical person then. But I've been curious since I was a kid. We were talking about your new podcast and you were talking about the idea of being a 5-year-old. When I was a kid, I used to annoy my parents so much. I'd always be like, but why does this thing happen? And why is it made this way? And what does this word mean? And my parents put me in school really early because they were just so tired of answering my questions. So I think it's just kind of innate.
I like that. My son went to school early too, which it's kind of an interesting thing because then you're kind of there's a level of immaturity and knowledge that I don't know if it fully gels well, right? But as long as it worked out. So let's walk through I don't want to go tell me your story because it's not really what I think. But I'd love to know what was the developmental process for you as a kid? I call it into middle, mid-teens, because I think those are some developmental years that sometimes either we do something that we later on are why did I do that? Or it sets a foundation we build upon.
Okay, my story is a little interesting, but I'm sure people can connect with this. So I'm half Iraqi, half Welsh, was born in London and grew up in New Jersey. And in my family, my older sister was really sick growing up. She had type 1 diabetes. And so I just had to be super self-sufficient and I had to take care of my younger sisters. And so I think as a bit of a coping mechanism, I started to eat my feelings. And so as a kid, I lived a life in a larger body and people would tell me all the time, you're too heavy, you're clinically obese, you need to lose weight, all of those things. And so I basically, as an over-rotation, was okay, I'm going to develop this sparkling personality. I'm going to be the most charming person in the room. And I'm going to put my head down and I'm going to do really well in school so that people will see me so that I will matter. So because I had those circumstances, because I was living in that larger body, I created this over-rotation, this performance so that I would feel accepted and loved. And I basically carried that forward with me into the workforce and it worked for me until it didn't work. And so my story is that I basically took that really hardworking nature into the workplace. And then I worked so hard that I burned out and I developed 2 autoimmune diseases. And the way that it happened was just working 70, 80-hour weeks. Then one week I get a call from my doctor and she's like, don't go to work today, go to the emergency room. And I was like, what are you talking about? And she's like, you're days away from multiple organ failure. You have to go to the hospital. So basically that childhood programming really set me up for some dysfunction in my later years.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we call those off shift moments, the off shift podcast, right? Like, oh, it's crazy. What did you learn about that then? Like if this took place, like first off, what was the thing you did? Like, did you go and all of a sudden, like I'm rushing there and took care? And then what were some of the things that you started to I'd say, take into consideration for the next phases of your life?
Yeah, I love the shift moment. I call it the stop moment, the moment that the universe is like, stop, because what you're doing isn't working. We have to go another way. So I actually went to work that day. I totally dismissed my doctor. I was like, this can't be real. I'm going to work. And then afterwards I was like, yeah, it is really wild. I think it just gives you like sort of a window, a view into my programming and how I was showing up at that time. But eventually I was like, okay, she's probably right. I should go to the doctor. And then basically I decided, I was like, I had two choices. It was like, do I keep going the way that I'm going and probably just not be here much longer, or do I choose another way? So I chose another way. And at that time, I had like a whole medical team helping me, but I also went to coaching. I was literally like, everything that I know about life apparently is not serving me. I need to learn some new skills and tools. So I went to coaching, and I really think coaching saved my life. And that's eventually why I became a coach, because it really showed me the stories that I had about myself, about work, about success, about life, about worthiness that I needed to deeply rewrite.
Gotcha. It's cool. Because then the thing is, I always tell people you shouldn't be, we'll call it teaching anyone how to run the race until you've crossed some finish lines, right? So
I love that.
Yeah, you've navigated some things. And so I'm going to bounce around a little bit. Meaning I want to at least set the tone for people to understand what it is that you actually do, right?
Yeah.
So if you don't mind sharing that, then we can kind of go back and I want to work through this.
Yeah. In its simplest terms, I'm a business and career coach. I call myself a holistic leadership and mindset coach because my approach really is holistic, because what I learned through my pivot points and my shift moments, my stop moments, is that we really need to take a multidisciplinary approach to our work and our lives. And so I would say my work touches on mindset, well-being, and our work, and a little bit of social justice too, because I think that's so important.
Yeah.
And the reason that I take that multidisciplinary approach was because that singular lane, that singular lens didn't work for me. And so I really needed to take care of my well-being so I could show up fully. I always say nourishment is a conduit to clarity. I really needed to work on my mindset so I could show up differently at work. And then I needed specific tools and tactics of how I was showing up either in the business or the career that allowed me to thrive, or not so much.
Gotcha. And as you look at those tools and things you started applying, here's the thing. I find like this conversation in a sense happens for everybody, right? Which is, I was in a place and I never had this hardship, but I'm always curious, like what would have got you in those moments to move before you had everything like in your face a problem? Because I know that while it's good to have someone like you're telling people, hey, do this because I did this and you shouldn't do it. But usually they don't do anything until like all of a sudden it's as crazy as it was for you. Like what would have been a thing you could have told yourself back then to get you to move before you had that crisis?
Here's what I believe, that we get our lessons when we get our lessons. And there's no way to save somebody from getting their lesson before they're ready to get it. I've had so many people on my podcast too. My story is not unique. There's so many people that I talk to that have had near-death experiences and these shift moments that change their trajectory. And I ask them the same question of, what would have got you to stop? And they're like, nothing. I needed that universe to, because the universe whispers, then it shouts, then it's a giant crack and you have to do something about it. And I think if we're super entrenched in our ways of being, we need that giant crack.
Yeah. And then it throws a chair in your face and it's like, hey, stupid, wake up.
Totally. And then there's no choice. It's just a binary, right? Keep going the way that you're going, which isn't looking good, or choose a different way.
And I think you have to have, here's my thought. I think you have to have at least one of those, right? I don't think you have to have them all the time. Because I think if you get one and you can feel it, if you can at least tap into the way you're feeling, like, oh, wait, last time I did this was, and my son right now is in college. He's 19, his sophomore year. And he's battling. He's running track. So he's doing the athletics. He's also doing school. And so the journey of it's like this back and forth. And he's like, Dad, man, these days are defeating me. And I go, you need it. Like, I'm not going to lighten it. I can't lighten it because at some point in your life, you're going to have this going on. And I need you to now build a strength for later. But if you like found a way to have him avoid it, he would lose it. At some point, you're going to be held to the fire. So I think you do need to have it at least one time. But I think that there's sometimes like individuals will have it happen and then it'll circle back around and they'll do the same thing over again. How do you have somebody avoid that kind of thing? Because I'm sure I've done it a couple times in life, but now in my life, I'm like, look, if I feel this way, I'm going to submit to it.
Yeah. There's this really great poem by Portia Nelson, and it's called The Hole in the Sidewalk. And it goes, there's a hole in the sidewalk. I don't see it. I fall in. The next time I walk down the street, there's a hole in the sidewalk. I forget that it's there. I fall in. The next time I walk down the street, I remember there's a hole in the sidewalk. So I walk around it. The next time I walk down the street, I remember that there's a hole in the sidewalk. So I walk down a different street. I've butchered that poem, but that's the essence of it. And I think that it's practice, and I think it's building the muscle so that we remember, oh, I can walk down a different street. Okay, I took this street before. It didn't really serve me. Okay, maybe there's another way of doing things.
That's pretty smart. I mean, it makes sense. It's kind of like you have to do it a couple times before you finally get it fully right. It wouldn't be an immediate thing, right? Because I think that you would miss a lot of life lessons. But I think there is something to like you said, the universe does it when it does it. Because there's actually this painting I have on my wall, and I got a tattoo of this sailing, like what a vessel you want to call it. It's a ship. And it says, smooth seas never made skilled sailors. And I think it's this thing where I look at life and I go, as much as I don't like a lot of the craziness, like it's a necessity and I have a deep appreciation for it. What are some of like the greater appreciation moments that you have from this experience?
Yeah, that's such a beautiful question. And exactly what you said, some of the most challenging moments in my life. Listen, do I love them and want to invite them in every day? No, thank you. But I would never give them back because they've taught me so much. So that stop moment that I have would never give it back because it changed the trajectory of my life. I wouldn't have this career if I didn't have this experience. I wouldn't teach what I teach. I wouldn't be able to help all these people. So it's the most beautiful gift in so many ways. I lost my grandfather in 2018, and he was my father figure. And it was the most devastating loss. It was the biggest loss of my life. And I met grief so deeply. It was so painful. But I would also never give that back. Because I met grief so deeply, I can carry other people through theirs. And everybody experiences grief. It's a universal feeling. So because I met my own so deeply, I can hold them in theirs. And that to me is just so powerful. So all of these things, I would never give them back. I don't love them. I'm not trying to sit with them every day, but I appreciate the teaching.
It does. It gives you that, it's kind of like if everything is always cold, when you get that warm blanket, it's warmer. It's like,
Yes.
It's the whole juxtaposition of it. I think there was something I watched recently. I can't remember who was interviewing like Dr. Jordan Peterson talking about like, I love everything in life. You love when somebody dies, and he goes, yeah. He's like, it's kind of the same thing. He's like, I don't love that they died, but I love that it taught me, and it gives me a gift of understanding and appreciation. And it makes me have a deeper relationship with those who are still here. So I get more goodness because of the sadness here. But that is life. Life is, if you love life, you have to love the hardship that comes along with it as well. So you navigate all this stuff, right? You're going through stages. Take me through some of the journeys you had, because I know that even the journey to where you're at now, even from those moments, there's always ups and downs. Life is the stock market, hopefully it just goes up and up. What are some of the ups and downs you kind of navigated, some more we'll call awe shift moments you faced?
Yeah. So it was interesting because I started my career in marketing and brand management, and that was the work that I did until that shift moment. And then I went back to school to study all these things. I studied coaching, nutrition, mindfulness, movement, all the things to just feel better in my own life. And then I thought, okay, cool. I know what I'm going to do next. I'm going to create this corporate wellness company, and I'm going to go into organizations, and I'm going to teach everyone everything that I've learned so they don't have the rock bottom that I had. And I, had this whole plan for what I was going to do. And for all intents and purposes, it was probably successful on paper. And one day I got to give this talk at a top consulting firm that had really been on my vision board. And I go and I give the talk, and then I get off stage, and like people are waiting to talk to me. It looks like it's been a great talk. And then I go to the bathroom and I burst into tears. And I was like, what is this? Like, I thought I wanted this thing. Like, why am I, like, whose tears are these? What is this about? And when I really sat with it, I felt that it had been disingenuous, because there used to be business Amina. Then there was wellness Amina, and I was only standing in wellness Amina. And so that was the invitation for this next level of work, my coaching body of work, to really bring in all the pieces: wellness Amina, business Amina, mindset Amina. And I think it's just interesting to really sit with that experience, because we think it's the dream and we put all of our hopes on it, and then we realize it's not the dream. And what I learned from that is that we're always becoming, we're always refining. And so deciding that this is the thing and this is it, and putting all of our eggs in that basket, I think in lots of ways sets us up to fail, because we are evolutionary beings. And that was such a big learning for me.
How does somebody know they're there? Because I think I've probably had a similar, I don't think I walked in the bathroom and was like, what's this water on my face? I didn't do that. But I definitely know, I'm like, I don't like this. I had built this, done with the NFL. I go into the fitness industry, novel idea for an athlete. Let's do fitness. But my degree is in kinesiology. So I'm like, I'm not a dumb jock. And I started building this thing and I had this fairly successful business. Multiple square, 1,000 square foot gym facility, traveling as far as Russia to speak, consulting for big companies. But then I got to this point, I go, I don't want to go to work today.
Yeah.
Never had it. I don't want to go to work today. And for me, thankfully, I was in a situation financially and time-wise where I could actually venture into a new career. But a lot of people aren't able to do that. Like, and sometimes I don't think they'll admit to themselves that they're there. They become walking zombies. How does someone know they're floating in that space?
I think there are a few signature themes. So you named frustration. I felt deep frustration. Bitterness, I think, is another theme. Resentment is another theme. When we don't feel like we want to get out of bed in the morning to do the thing that we want to do, that's a key indicator. And to your point, it's a form of privilege to be able to be like, do what you or I did, which is say, okay, I'm going to go start this business. But sometimes we can shift enough in place that it can feel a bit more flowy. So one of the things I always invite people to do is get on the court with their genius. So we all have different zones of genius. And most of the time, especially in corporate roles, we're operating outside of our genius. And so if we're feeling that sense of frustration and we can't make a big shift like you or I did, asking ourselves, how can I spend 10 more minutes today in my zone of genius, 20 more minutes today in my zone of genius? And over time, it'll start to feel like less frustration and more flow. So there's ways that we can shift in place too, if we are experiencing some of those signature themes of frustration, bitterness, resentment, anger, all the goodies.
All the goodies. How much of that has to be done alone as well? Like, was your journey solo? Because I'm thinking like someone going, okay, cool. But like, it'd be cool if somebody could be there with me. Or sometimes there's a fear around making changes that remove us from our tribe. That's another scary portion. Like, how do you navigate or do you experience those at all?
You nailed it. So much of the reticence I see with my own clients about stepping into their next level of growth is the fear that they're going to lose the people that they love. And this is such a human emotion, right? Because we're pack animals and we're safer together. And so the idea that if I grow, it means that I'm going to lose some people. Sometimes people will say, well, I'm just going to stay right here. But going back to your original question, I think it's a both and. I did so much solo work because a lot of the times we outsource our knowing to other people. We say, hey, coach, what's the thing that I should do? Hey, healer, what's the thing that I should do? But we have that deep knowing inside of ourselves. And really, those people are meant to be mirrors. Yeah. So I think it's a combination of spending time with people that ask us the right questions and can reflect back what they hear. And then being with ourselves enough so that we know that the voice is ours and not somebody else's.
That's good. That's really good. And also, I think we don't comprehend or even, and I guess in the moment, pay attention. All we know is what we're possibly going to lose. Like, I know I may lose this relationship or they'll think I'm crazy. But what you fail to understand, in my experience, is like there's someone on the other side who is embracing this new version of you. If you let them, see you, right? So if you go, I want to be a speaker. I had my wife and my best friend go, stupid idea. Don't do that. It's why would you go do that? And I go, oh, I want to go do it, right? But I would do it. And then I talk to people who are doing it. Like, you can do it. I'm like, yeah, I can. So the more I embraced it and went against that grain, like I left that tribe, went to a new one. Here's another thing. Like, I get here and when you're killing it, that tribe wants to come with you too. They go, oh, look, you're doing it, right? And so you could choose to bring them back into the circle, which I did, obviously. But they're like, you're not always losing. You're actually opening up. You're losing to gain in time.
Exactly. What's on the other side is always better than where we are, but we all have loss aversion. It's a very human tendency. But you're absolutely right. And there are people that will grow with us. And that's so beautiful that people are going to go on the journey and evolve at the same time that we are.
I like that. So when you work with your clients and they come in, they go, look, I got this problem. I'm going to go and say, I might have an idea of this. I might be completely wrong. My guess is what you deliver to them is the solution. It's not always the one they thought it was going to be.
Yeah, it's so funny.
They desire money and maybe freedom and time with their family. And you go, hey, we're going to work on some structural stuff in your mindset. And they go, huh? Like, I just want to have a strategy, right? How do you introduce these ideas that people may have heard, but they think they're floaty? But you at your heart level know that that's really the problem they're facing.
Yeah. A wise person's once said to me that, sell people what they want, but deliver what they need. And so when I sit with people, it's like, sure, okay, you want the promotion, you want the raise, you want to start the business, you want to get to 7 figures. Cool. Got you. But that's intrinsically tied to our mindset. That's intrinsically tied to our spiritual development. Those things aren't mutually exclusive. We think that they are, but they're absolutely not. And so we can't create our 2024 roadmap if we're not really honest about what's happening for ourselves internally and we're not being true to who we are. And so Sure, we'll do that thing. We'll create that plan. We'll get you to that next level. And also, we're going to get there because we did the internal work.
That's good. I mean, it's a way to clarify it for them. And I got like things that I do because I do my own like level of identity work. And most of the stuff that I go, what do you want to do? Oh, I want to make more money. I want to double the bit. Beautiful, right? Are you the person to do that? Oh, yeah, I think so. Oh, then we're not, right? Because if you question it, then the things that I do. So like I can almost introduce them sometimes the idea by asking some questions about where they're currently at. Because I don't believe you can, and this may be in line with your work or somewhere different of a little slight skew, but I don't think you can attain or sustain any goal above your current identity, which is your habits, your patterns, your actions, your perspectives, right? If you go, I want to be a baker. Oh man, but I hate touching dough. Good luck, man. Like, what? How you gonna do that? So I think there's going to be an elevation of that, but most people don't realize it's not just a strategy. It feels safe. You can read the books you want to read, but at some point you have to apply some things. When you kind of run into telling people like, hey, we're going to do this mindset work or like breath work, go home and breathe like this. I'm sure they meet you like this. What are you talking about sometimes? How do you get people out of those sticking points? And then I'd like to have people hear, like, what's it like when you see them embrace something foreign and get a win?
It's honestly the best feeling in the world. So one of the newest bodies of work that I brought into my coaching practice is nervous system work. It's exactly what you said, that we can't grow beyond our own capacity, right? So if our nervous system doesn't believe or feels unsafe about our next level, we're not going to get ourselves there. We're going to subconsciously sabotage. So I work with a practitioner that does something called body mapping. And so it's a somatic practice. And I had people in my group program that were like, oh, I don't know, I never heard of this. This is a little weird. We did a group session together. Then somebody messaged me afterwards like, hey, I'm feeling stuck on taking action. I was like, do the body mapping. She messages me after. She's like, I reached out to everybody that I was supposed to. I have 2 new clients. This whole thing shifted. I tried to do an hour meditation beforehand. It didn't work, but the body mapping shifted me in 15 minutes. And it's like, when tools work for people, I think it's so exciting. And my favorite thing to do is not tell them, but show them, because once you show them and involve them, then they understand. They've seen the shift for themselves.
Yeah, I love it. It's funny as how much some of the same stuff covers so many bases. It's just like it's framed up in different packages, you know?
Yeah.
A lot of the work that I do, like we go through a process of identity. It's a working model of like a flowing wheel. You have your identity, beliefs, thoughts, the emotions that fuel the actions. Actions create the outcomes. Outcomes give you proof of what you see environmentally inside and outside, which then solidifies your identity. And you got to change something to make that wheel go from I'm not that great to I'm amazing. And what it is between emotion and action. It's taking the action at the level it needs to be when you don't even feel like doing it. Like to go bold out there, it's like jumping off a cliff into water, hoping you don't die, like, right? But you do it and all of a sudden, holy crap, different outcome. Maybe I can do that, right? And so what you're talking to is kind of the same things that I do. It's like, you're going to go do something unique. It's not going to feel 100% like you're in your own skin, but sure enough, you'll eventually get there. And I think if people made that leap more often for everything, they'd find themselves in a different place, emotionally, spiritually, financially, like it would all kind of climb up.
Yes.
With the clients you work with, and I'm doing this because I want somebody listening to do 2 things. 1, to go, maybe I should reach out to this woman. And 2, go, maybe my friend should reach out to this woman, right? So who's like the most ideal person for you to come across going, God, this is like the ideal, perfect person to work with?
Yeah, most of the people that come to me are people that got to the top of the mountain in their career that they thought they should, quote unquote, should have. So kind of very similar to me and you. And then they look around at the top of the mountain and they realize this isn't it. There's no freedom there. There's no joy there. They don't feel themselves. They feel like they're living into a performance. And maybe it manifests as burnout, frustration, anger, resentment, bitterness, those signature themes we were talking about earlier, and a deep knowing inside that they are just meant for and capable of so much more.
Yeah.
And so usually that's when people will come to me. And you asked this question earlier, and I think this is answering it in a slightly different way. People will come to me when the pain is so deep that they are just willing to play all out, that they refuse to stay where they are because they're so uncomfortable. And it's like the shift moment. It's when they will choose a different set of beliefs and behaviors so that they can have a different reality.
I like that. Now, here's going to be an interesting question, because I've always found that a lot of people need like that catalyst moment. What you're talking to is kind of what I would call like I came home and my wife said this one thing and I got to change my life now. It's like, why do we have to wait till that moment? You didn't know before that at all, you know? So I'm like, is there ways to hasten the process towards you? Maybe just waking up to a life going, you know what? This isn't what I want to do. Like not waiting until all of a sudden, like you get fired, the doctor says you're sick, your wife or husband wants to leave. You're like, why? We don't got to wait till that moment to pick things up. Is there some way people can process, or you should tell them, like maybe you could tell them to hasten that and go like, hey, just wake up to it and change before it gets too far.
Yeah. One of the best practices for this is novelty, because what we're talking about is people staying in their comfort zone, no matter how dysfunctional it is, right? My comfort zone was a job that was killing me and it was wildly dysfunctional, but I knew it. So it was comfortable, even though the other side was way nicer. And so when we introduce novelty in our lives, let's say I decide to take up a new sport or I take up pottery, I'm getting new information and sensory input in my body. When I get new sensory input in my body, my mindset shifts, my nervous system shifts. So I actually can see more clearly. I can think more creatively. I can find my way out and through. And so if you feel like you're close to your shift moment, but you just can't get there, I would say introduce novelty. Take up a new sport, a new activity, a new way of moving, flowing, meeting new groups of people, because that novelty will create the space for you to think more creatively, more clearly, and take action towards what you really want.
I like it. It's changing things. It's just like it's moving and adjusting. I tell people motion changes the emotion, which is not something that I knew initially, but like, and it's doing something that's abnormal. Maybe this will make sense to you. Years ago, I had a buddy who isn't even in our space. I was struggling to get my employees at my gym business to do this thing. And he was working for a power company at the time. And he goes, look, here's what you got to realize. A lot of people, when they're kids, they have this perspective of the world that's huge, right? They can do all this stuff. As they get older, they get good at something and it brings their focus down tighter and tighter. And the more they get good at it, the tighter it is to what they can do. And then now what happens is whatever you're talking about, if it's outside of this view range, it doesn't register as anything that's going to be beneficial. And they also, here's the other thing, it says while they get good at this thing, they start to realize how much and feel how much they're missing. There's no more joy. They're not doing things different. So trying new things opens the viewpoint back up. So like I can get like a kid and like, oh, I can go skydiving. I can go paragliding. I don't know why I'm making up things in the sky, falling from the sky. But you see what I'm saying? Like jet skiing and you can go, I don't know, pet camels. Who cares? But you could do these things that are different. And then it does create this new opening of emotion. And I think that sometimes is the energy we need to be able to fuel us to do something scary that's not normal, but then get that different outcome we're looking for.
Powerfully said. The thing that shifts us out of our tunnel vision and expands our point of view. So beautifully said.
Yeah, well, you said it more beautiful than me just now, so I can't take credit. That was way better than what I would have said. So what's like your future thought? Because while we're always helping people, we're always got to be on our own journey. Like my biggest fear is that my son comes to me when he's 40 and I got nothing for him, So I'm always trying to like be ahead of the curve of purposely growing and intentionally looking at the world and analyzing. What do you see for like the things you're trying to expand into yourself to lead your people?
That's such a beautiful question. I feel like my work, the essence of it is really helping people know themselves. And that manifests as making better decisions in our careers and our work and having these beautiful businesses and jobs that we are happy to go to every single day. But for me, it's always a deeper knowing. And when I think about how we future-proof our careers, particularly, especially in the age of AI, really developing the humanness of ourselves, right? They used to be called soft skills. Now they're rebranded as power skills. And I like that so much better because I think that they are so powerful. But the more empathy we have, the more psychological safety we can create for other people, the better this world will be. And I think that those things will always be so important, regardless if AI is here or not. And so those are the things that I'm always going deeper on of like, how do we bring more of our humanness to the surface? Because I actually think we've just scratched the surface on that. I don't know that many people that feel fully safe to be in their authenticity. And so I think there's so much room and latitude there.
Yeah. Why don't they feel safe though? Because I would agree. Like I had a conversation with somebody last night. Here's the thing. I don't know how I got there, but I don't care in a good way. Like
I love that. Unbothered.
People, it's just like, I don't care. I mean, you may not like me and I realize like I'm a man of faith. Not everybody loves Jesus. Like, that's okay. You're not going to like me. I don't got to not like me because you don't like me.
Yeah.
So how do people get there? Like, how did you get there? How do you get people there? That's one I don't have a definitive answer for yet.
Yeah, that's a practice because I used to really care about what people thought of me. And so that's a nervous system state, right? When we need everybody around us to like us, that's a form of people pleasing. And if we're people pleasing, we're not in our authenticity. We're also not seeing the fullness of what's around us and how we can grow. And so it's recognizing those behaviors and then taking small actions to shift over time. Like I always say that awareness is 80% of it. Okay, so I'm people pleasing in this moment. I care if this person likes me or not. How can I shift and show up differently next time or in the next minute? And it's a practice. I also think it comes with age. I'm entering my 4th decade and I care way less than I ever did before. And that's so wonderful because I used to care way too much, but I do think it's a practice. But going back to your original question, I think identity, using your word, plays a big role. I think those of us with non-dominant identities, that can feel a little bit more challenging because the world can feel a bit less psychologically safe. So if we can create that internal safety for ourselves, that internal stability, the safer it feels for us to be ourselves out in the world, the less we care what somebody thinks of us.
I get it. It's like that old people confidence. They don't give it nothing. They don't care at all.
Yeah.
It's funny.
They're like, I've been here for 8 decades. I'm amazing.
I don't want to do my thing, and they run around and do wild stuff, which is, it's cool to see. And I go, can I get that earlier? Because there is some part of life that gets lived at a level. Like, I think I've lived enough life where I had moments where I look back and go, I cared a lot, and I don't even know who that person was. I don't ever interact with that person. So why did I not do that then? Like my son, he runs track and he's considering like walking on to play football. Cause I played, and I think he kind of played before and wasn't really at that level of confidence, but he's like, I want to go try it now. I go, hey, go do it. And he goes, I don't know. Should I? What are my coaches? What are they going to say? And I go, listen, son, you have 4 years to play college sports, and you can't ever play for the rest of your life. So if you can go 10 years from now and look back and go, I'm okay having not tried that thing because of my coach's perspective, then by all means, don't do it. But if any part of you thinks you might, bro, go play, go try. You just never know. Whatever you think is this confining thing now, realistically, in the long run, dude, it's not. It's a blip. And I love that I can talk to him like that, but it's only because I did that in a lot of ways, and I got the brunt of it sometimes. It wasn't always good, right? But in the moments when you step into it and try something and go, I'm going to be me, you start to learn how to navigate those situations emotionally better, and I think tactically better also.
Yeah. It's so wonderful that your son has you as a resource. I feel like kids are real lucky to have basically, an in-house thought leader, coach, someone that can help them dive deeper.
They don't always got 14-year-old twins. Some people just, it's like I'm like this just guy in the house that yells at them. Like, but I'm trying to give you a game. Can you listen to it?
This will really serve you in 10 years.
Yeah.
There's this great book by Don Miguel Ruiz called The Four Agreements. Have you read it?
Yeah, it's over here.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Yes. It's on like every thought leader teacher's literally right on their desk. But is it agreement number 2 or 3? Take nothing personally, because everybody is moving through the world with their own lens and their own mind. And that one agreement has served me so much because it's the truth. Yeah. Everyone's just moving through the world based on their lived experience with their lens and their mind. Like nothing that we do is going to impact them, right? Unless they decide to shift. So why do we care so much? Nothing's really personal.
No, it's what allowed me to forgive people a lot. So I've had a lot of people do some things that are crazy in life. And I started to realize, like at the end of the day, if I was to remove myself, like I feel bad for the person that feels they had to do that, like, or they would do it to somebody and I go, you know what? They're not doing it to maliciously hurt me. They're just doing it selfishly because that's who they are. And I'm just a byproduct, a bystander, we'll call it. And that one thing like allowed me to alleviate my mom giving me away. Like just gave her kid away. I'm like, how could you do that to me? She didn't know me. She was doing something for her. She thought it'd be better. And just kind of my life got crappy for a long time. But it allowed me to forgive because I go, man, it must suck to have lived a life where you don't get to be around your son who did some cool things in life, or her own parents didn't give the tools she needed to be a present mom. And so alleviating that and like stepping away from like, it's them. They're not that there's a problem with them, but it's who they are. This is how they live. It gives me peace. And then I don't have to be at the whim of their judgments or their praise. I think Deion Sanders says, he goes, he says something about the idea of like, if you didn't help build me up, why would I let you tear me down?
So powerful. But I mean, what you said is so compassionate, right? You really understand their experience, right? And it doesn't really have anything to do with you. I think that's such a beautiful, compassionate way to look at that.
It makes things smoother for life, for me at least. And then you get to find the people who are on that same wavelength. I love humans that are at that, because then here's also the thing. I find over life, I get to have really cool conversations like this. And I don't always have the conversation I'd like to have because I realize that simply the existence of my belief in opposition as seen as an attack on theirs.
Yeah.
And it may not be belief in faith. It could be belief in anything. I believe you should, wear stockings under. It doesn't matter. But there's like this perspective of, because I believe this. Oh, so what are you trying to say? I shouldn't do? No, I didn't say any of that. All I said was I believe that bananas taste better than apples. So for me, when people get to the level you're talking about, it's like they're just living their life. You may have an opposite belief. Totally cool. You're different. I can live with that. I love the conversation. Great meeting you. I really wish you have a great life. And then we're off on our races, right? But there's this world where people don't get to that headspace, which I think we're talking to in the realm, and they miss out on amazingness in life, I think.
Yeah. I love what you're saying, because I think it's so important for this moment that if we have differing beliefs, it somehow violates my rights, but it doesn't have to, right? That's the decision that we made or the meaning that we made from that conversation.
Yeah, that's 100% how it rolls. And then if we can do that, I think that's how the world goes farther is you actually open your mind to entertain an idea without accepting it. Just have the idea and go, oh, that does make me think about this. And then there's a cool thing. Somebody feels heard. You may
Yeah.
not have any connection or belief in the same thing, but as a human, I respect that you respected hearing me. And
Yeah.
that actually moves things forwards in some way. So I got friends you would not be like think that like they're my friends. It's like they have different beliefs. I know. My best friend's borderline atheist. I believe in God all my life. How does that
Yeah.
work? I
Yeah.
respect him as a human. He respects me. We have very similar morals and values. So like I would trust him with everything in my life. And while that's his belief, I don't diminish him as a human because of that. I love him, right? It's just his own thing. But the existence of my belief is an attack on his lack of it or vice versa, right? So,
Exactly.
but it works. Man, I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation.
Me too.
Yeah. I told you it's fun. We start talking, things happen. I don't know how it works. Uh, my brain's curious and I like humans, so it works. So, last two questions. If people want to get more of Amina, find out where she's at, how do I direct them there?
Thank you so much. You can learn more about me on my website, AminaAlTai.com. I'm sure the spelling will be in the show notes. Instagram is the same handle. And then I also have a podcast called I'm Gonna Change Your Life, which you can tune into everywhere you get your podcasts. And I would love to have you on.
Oh, count me in. Anytime. I got a whole bunch I can talk about. That's my wife.
I can tell.
Point, she's like, I love what you talk, but you talk all the time. It's your all day. I go, I know, but I like doing it. So
see, you were meant to be a speaker.
I was meant to. Years ago, I got in trouble for talking in school. Now they pay me a lot of money to do it. It is wild.
I love that.
I love it. So no complaints from me. Final question. What promise did God or the Creator make to the world when they created you?
Oh, that's such a nice question. I'm going to take the long route to answer this. So I once did a guided meditation, and in the meditation, it was basically meeting God before I came to planet Earth in this lifetime and having a conversation about what I was called to do in this lifetime. And it was a really interesting meditation because I noticed like me and God were kind of having a squabble. I was like, God, I don't know if I really want to go back. Like I've been there a couple times. Like I feel like I've made my commitment, and God's like, nope, get in. They need you now. They need you in this lifetime. And it was just a really like a big shift moment for me to do that meditation and really sort of accept the mission. And I really think that I'm here to really help people find purpose, peace, and prosperity in this lifetime. And I specifically want to help underrepresented folks and historically excluded folks because I think the journey can be a little bit more challenging for those people. And I feel like I'm equipped to help, and I've got more love, energy, and compassion than I can use for myself. And I want to put it behind people that really need that catalyst for growth.
I like it. It's a good one. We have too much of something that there's a certain joy you can have of utilizing yourself and a greater joy of helping other people with it. So I like that. I like that. It's a really good one. Well, we've got to the back of our time. I appreciate you genuinely taking your time to come hang out with us on the Off Shift podcast. It's fun for me. So thank you. Those of you who are all tuned in right now, two things. One, if you enjoyed the podcast, please rate, review, all that fun stuff. Put it on the world so the rest of the world could see it, and also apply one thing you heard. There's going to be something you heard as a nugget. Go put it into action. The other thing is if you know someone that can benefit from this episode, share it with them. Hit the link, put it in their inbox. I don't care what you do, but give it to their life so it can benefit them. Outside of that, as always, make the most of your off shift moments so you can make shift happen. It's Anthony Trucks and Amina Al Tai signing off. Hey, thank you for tuning in to the Oz Shift podcast. I pray that we gave something amazing to your life. And if you found this episode served you in some way, I would love if you could share it with people you know, people you love, as well as your community, because you never know who needs that simple little seed that can grow into something amazing for their life. And the actual training doesn't stop here. If you want your free copy of the show notes sent to you after every episode so you can get the major points consolidated down, simply go to textanthony.com and message the word notes. Till next time, make shift happen.